And finally it's here. Well, I want to tell you something. I'm not Dutch, I'm not English, I'm from Spain. I produce hardstyle a lot of years. This is why I know to make this, but my English is not good enough. This tutorial requires a very technical language, and my vocabulary is too short at this moment, but I'm going to try to show you, doing my best, how I distort a 909. I have to say that you can make really cool kicks in FLstudio, Cubase, or Ableton. A lot of people is curious about how it works with distortion because they use Venom, and a lot of people use this software to make their tracks and wants to make a kick here. It has the famous clip distortion plugin. Is well, yes, it's the best. It's the best. But I have to say that my best kick ever made, I made it in July. I'm going to use it in my new track. That will be very, very good. That kick was made on FLstudio, and I used this toy. This toy is White Noise Stereo Disc. I don't recommend you to install it in FLstudio 12. I still use in FLstudio 11 for make kicks. The way of kick making is a little bit different. You can get very rich characters here with clip distortion, used in 1 or 2 or 3 cents, distorting and EQing, distorting and EQing. But in FLstudio, if you have seen the Day's tutorial, this is the way I follow to make kicks on FLstudio. He makes a layer, then makes another layer, then makes another layer, then makes another layer for the bass, and then blend them together to get the kick. I do that, but I use White Noise Stereo Disc because it sounds very close to the distortion from clip distortion, but the filters are a bit different and it's a little bit more overcomplicated. But you have to make different layers on FLstudio to make a rich sound. In Logic, you can make it directly with clip distortion. It's a little bit complicated to make kicks in FLstudio, but if you learn, it's almost the same. You can make the same kicks with the same quality. The main difference between today's technique and my technique is that I improved some points, like for example, cut the layers with a linear phase EQ, because when you do a filter or a low cut, a high cut or something with a non-linear phase EQ, you will have a phase variation, and maybe, for example, in a bass layer, you can lose tight sound, the power. If you want to keep it as the original sound, I recommend you use a linear phase EQ. Well, now let me show you the first step of kick making. I'm going to use a 909 Min.Some. You can use sample EKS9. This is the plugin that I use in FLstudio, and it works very, very cool. So I recommend it to you. But this time I'm going to use Min.Some. It emulates a TR909, and the important parameters here is the pitch, the decay, and the attack. I started this kick in G, but when I was distorting it, I changed accidentally the knob of the pitch. The kick changed a lot and it started to sound way better. Try to change the pitch sometimes when you are distorting your kick tuner. This is like G tune, but it's very sensible, so will be difficult to see the exactly tone. But well, in FLstudio you can use G toner. It's not accurate at all, but well, let me compare and explain you how clip distortion works. Here we have a filter before the distortion in the chain. We have another filter. This is a low pass filter. Here we have another low pass filter, but this one is before, is after the distortion, sorry. And here we have a high self-being. You select the desired frequency and decrease or increase the volume. You have the exactly same parameters in White Noise Stereo Disc. This is the symmetry bar. This is the bottom, the top. This is how much distortion you want. This is the kind of algorithm you want to use. In this case is clip distortion. Here you have a pre-distortion filters and the wet. But as you can see, it's a little bit overcomplicated. You can't get the exactly same sound, but well, I recommend to use it in FLstudio because it's way better than Venom. Venom, with all my respects, is a little bit cheap copy of clip distortion. So this parameter is very important to get cool harmonics in the low frequencies, and the symmetry. Well, I would like to explain it in English. It's like let me think. It's like wave shaper. It's like a wave shaper. You can adjust the symmetry of the distortion. To show you how it works in a visual mode, I'm going to tweak some knobs here to show you how the sounds change. Maybe to see this is useful for someone that try to copy the same settings in Venom. Then I use an EQ to resonate the middle frequencies, well, the middle high frequencies, resonate this sound because I don't know why it sounds cool, and cut the kick because I want to explain you something. When you make a low cut, you will do a phase variation. So with that phase variation and the distortion, you can make different sounds and you can play with it to get different kinds of distortions. I don't know. I will show you. Let me show you. Well, here I do a very soft distortion because I want to keep distorting the kick again. Here, what I do is just cut again the low frequencies, fix some sounds because, for example, in this one, it has too much power. I felt that I had to decrease a little bit this frequencies. And here you can see that I'm decreasing the high frequencies because I'm going to distort a lot the kick. I'm going to do a very aggressive distortion. And if you keep the EQ like this, it will the high frequencies will start to sound so dirty. So I want a soft tail with a soft distortion. So this is why I do this kind of EQ, and you can fix that if it sounds a little bit moody before after the distortion, after the distortion, to get again this presence of the kick on the distortion, that high end, you know. Here the kick starts to sound cool. This is my favorite part when you do this distortion and start to sound aggressive. Let me show you what's happened if I change the low cut I showed before. For me, it was difficult to explain it to you because, you know, my English is not good enough. A phaser is a very powerful tool and complicated to explain, but feel free to copy these settings. Distortion again. The distortion, what I want is get the body on the kick. The trick is in the tone and the symmetry. Let me show you. Next step, an EQ. What I do is what I told you before, use enhance the high frequencies, because we already have that clean character thanks to this EQ, but maybe it sounds too muddy, so we have to increase the high frequencies to have more presence on this part. Here I do a comb EQ to clean this awful frequency. I do a low cut, and this EQ is to have more power in the mid-low frequencies. The kick starts to sound good, but it needs way more effects. Headhunterz in a tutorial sent this channel to 3 new channels with a filter in each one with linear phase EQ used to make 3 different bands, the low, the mid and the high frequencies, but it's not necessary. It's just another technique, but to have a nice kick is not necessary. But if you are interested in this technique, you can visit my old kick tutorial in Logic. With this EQ, you can see what I want to do. Have more power in the low end and decrease the power in this zone. A very heavy distortion. I'm going to give you a tip. If you want to enhance, for example, from this band with the high solving frequency filter, you can do it directly from clip distortion. It is also a way to EQ the kick. Compressor. What I do here is just compress the kick, but the special thing here is that I give a slow attack to compress the tail and keep this attack with this, how to say in English, that snappy tracet, you know, to keep distorting it again and get a powerful attack in the kick. Beat Cruiser is also a distortion unit. As you can see, I am doing just a simple clipping distortion. Then I send this channel to another bus. It's like bounce it, work on the result, you know. It's like the tutorial from the days that he makes different layers and start to work on them is the same way. But well, I recommend to do this, to do sendings in Logic, because in FL Studio is not comfortable. It's better to render or recording the song with Edison, drag it into the playlist and start working again. But I recommend in Logic to use Sense because it's very comfortable and easy. Let's see how it sounds now. It's a very how to say it, creative tool to use in kicks. Then it's time to reverb. More distortion before the reverb to get that granulated sound. But as you can see, it's used a touch, it's used a detail. It's not a very strong distortion here. More EQ. Because the kick was lacking some power in the high frequencies. No, a compressor, use a UCA compressor. It's a quick attack and quick release to keep the kick controlled. And here is multipressor. Multipressor is a multi-band compressor from Logic, and it's very important to get a professional sound in your kick and get controller your kick. What I do here is just compress the low frequencies a little bit, okay, with a quick attack and a long release to keep it compressing along the tail, along the entire kick, to control the bass along the kick. And here is the opposite situation. It's a slow attack with a very quick release, just to compress the high frequencies sound just after the punch, you know, to get that snappy thrashing, you know. It's a little bit difficult for me to explain it with words, but let me show you how it sounds. It sounds with more power, tight bass. I really love it, how it works. This compressor is one of the best I ever tried before. Linear phase EQ, very important EQ, is the final one, used to improve some frequencies. You can see here that the change is very noticeable and it's very good. And now I use a bit cruiser just to limit it. It's a simple clip limiter if you use this mode, okay? Well, for the second step, we should to have a sound like this one. Let's see. It's exactly the same sound, and let me show you that is exactly the same sample. The second step, layering, for me the most complex step. What we have to do is just without using external sounds from scratch, using the same sample, make the different parts of the kick, just cutting it in different parts, you know. Is a very simple explanation, but trust me, it's more than this. It's a little bit complicated. This is why it's a mystery for some people. Let me show you a little bit. No tricks here. Is exactly the same sound. And this is the final result. Oops. There's a problem here. This is the waveform of the final result. As you can see, it looks like the waveform from the noise controller's kick. So that means that we used a very similar method to get that kind of kicks. Just compare it. Maybe the punch is too short for my taste, but well, I won't use this kick too much. It is used for this tutorial. If you are curious about the second step, don't worry, I am going to make the tutorial soon, so you will see all the steps. It's a little bit more complicated because I say with a shitty character, with a shitty distorted bass drum in the layering step, you can get a really great kick. So it's very important step. As you can see, it's not easy to explain, but well, in the next tutorial you will see how I do the layering of this kick to get the sound of the final result. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and have a nice day.